Choices. While some of us believe the choices that we make are entirely up to us as an individual, the choices we make on a day-to-day basis are as up to us as individuals as they are up to the places that we were born and the people that we were raised around. Because while yes, absolutely, you're your own individual and nobody should be able to or should even try to take that from you. And therefore the choices that you make on a day-to-day basis are largely up to you. But at the end of the day, we cannot deny the subconscious weight of the way that we were born and where we were brought up. Because everything in your life, from how you look to where you were born to who raised you, informs the person that you become. And the person that you become informs the choices that you make. And thus, while I can sit here and say I got a bunch of anime tattoos because I love anime and that's all about me, the real underlying reason that I probably got anime tattoos is because I stumbled into anime through my connections that I made in kindergarten. And I had an older sister who I looked up to who had a bunch of tattoos. And therefore, down the line, the interest that I got through the connections I made in kindergarten came together with the interest that I had in tattoos and specifically arm sleeves until eventually those interests coalesced to create what I currently wear on my body now, and it's no different in the Naruto world. However, instead of talking about the choices the characters in Naruto made because of the circumstances of their birth, today I want to talk about Jutsu. See, because the Jutsu that a certain character uses in Naruto are as up to them as it is up to the place that they were born and the clan that they were born into. Much like how humans are born with different languages, mannerisms, cultures, and senses of humor, depending on where they are born, people born into villages in Naruto have a much higher chance of using certain type of jutsu. And the wildest part about that is that the more you understand about the Naruto universe, the more you begin to understand the rationale as to why certain individuals that come from certain villages have to use certain jutsu. See, because while some villages use certain jutsus because of their meager population and the fact that they can't supply enough money for the village through things like agriculture, other villages are known for using different kinds of jutsus because within the confines of their village, there's clans with bloodline-specific Kekkei Genkai. And therefore, there's a multitude of reasons why a certain type of jutsu can be tied to a certain region. But today, I don't want to talk about the why. Today, I want to talk about the how. More specifically, I want to talk about the how many and the how hard they punchy. And when I say they, I mean the jutsus that come from individual villages. See, because today I want to talk about hidden jutsu, or jutsu that come from a specific area or clan in Naruto. And while we've done videos ranking and explaining all the hidden jutsu, today I want to focus less on the jutsu and more on the location these jutsu come from, which is why today we're ranking and explaining the jutsus of the hidden villages, which we'll accomplish by identifying all of the hidden jutsus tied to individual hidden villages and comparing the lists of those jutsus to the list of the jutsus from other villages to ultimately find out which village has the greatest list of jutsus tied to its name and which village has the worst. And thus today, I hope to identify the chances that an average shinobi from a certain village has of becoming truly powerful. As if you're a child who grows up wanting to be a shinobi, being surrounded by more powerful hidden jutsu gives you a better shot at being a powerful shinobi. Because like it or not, if you want to become powerful in Naruto, you're gonna need some pretty powerful jutsu. Buckle up, ladies and gentlemen, because today we're talking about the Naruto universe's version of redlining in the hidden villages jutsus, ranked and explained. But before we get to ranking or explaining anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you love the idea of me ranking and explaining things, you're gonna love my other channel, The Weeb Commander, where instead of talking about Naruto and Boruto, I talk all other anime. Or if you just love the idea of me talking about anime in general, then go ahead and follow my anime podcast, Otaku's Anonymous, where me and Danny Mata break down everything that happened in anime and manga this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Or if you want to look like somebody who keeps up with all things anime and manga, go ahead and meander on over into my merch store, otakusanonymous.net, where you can pick up some of the greatest anime t-shirts, sweatshirts, and sticker packs known to man. So, before we get into today's video, I want to lay down a couple of ground rules, because there's going to be a couple of jutsu that don't make this list that some people believe should make this list, and therefore I want to tell you why I'm adding certain things and leaving other things off. See, in order to get really into the nitty-gritty of the details of this video, we got to go over what a hidden jutsu is in the first place. A hidden jutsu is simply just a secret technique that's passed down through generations in clans or regions, and the group of people who usually possess these techniques are incredibly incredibly secretive about them so that they don't leak to other regions or clans. As such, hidden jutsus are almost always only passed down through oral means. That is to say that there's no books or scrolls telling you how to use shadow paralysis jutsu. You can only be taught by a fellow Naruto clansman, and that's technically the easiest type of hidden jutsu to acquire, as plenty of hidden jutsu also require that you come from a specific bloodline. However, just because things like the Naruto Shadow Possession or the Akamichi's partial expansion jutsu aren't bloodline specific, does not mean they can be easily copied. In fact, you could observe Shikamaru doing his shadow paralysis jutsu for as long as you want, and you would never be able to do it yourself. However, that doesn't mean that things like the shadow paralysis jutsu or the Akamichi's partial expansion jutsu are Kekkei Genkai, because they're not. And honestly, the fact that they're not Kekkei Genkai is probably the only reason that the Naruto, the Akamichi, the Yamanaka, and all the other people who use hidden jutsus that aren't Kekkei Genkai are still alive, because there is a track record in the Naruto universe that if you have a hidden jutsu that's Kekkei Genkai, at some point or another, your clan will be exterminated, or at least targeted for extermination. Therefore, for hidden jutsu to be considered for this video in order to bolster up a village's strength, it needs to fall within those set parameters. On top of that, I'd like to specify that we're talking about villages, not countries. And while things like the Land of Fire and Konoha might be talked about in Naruto circles interchangeably, they are not the same thing. And that goes for all the villages and their respective countries. But I know you're asking the question,
But Nick, doesn't the entire country funnel shinobi into the village?
not always. A good example of a hidden jutsu that's tied to a country, but not a village, is Welcoming Approach Thousand Armed Murder. Now, this is the ultimate technique of the Fire Temple, and is only taught to ninja monks, and thus the only people we've ever seen use it are Chiriku and Asuma, who learned it from Chiriku. But just because Chiriku served as one of the 12 pillars and a protector of the Fire Daimyo, does not mean that Chiriku is associated with Konoha in any way whatsoever. And while this might seem ticky-tacky and overly analytical, there's multiple circumstances where separating the country from the village is pretty important when considering power. And since we're talking about becoming a shinobi in these respective villages and not a ninja monk, taking into consideration jutsus from outside of the villages would kind of muddy the waters. And thus, there's gonna be a couple of jutsus like this one that are not gonna make the list when considering the strength of hidden jutsus from certain villages. But I will be bringing those jutsus up and telling you why we're not including them. So with no further ado, let's get into our list. And coming in last place, number 5, is the Sand Village. Now I know what some of you are gonna say,
Oh, we're only doing the 5 major villages? What about the Sound? What about the Raid?
Sound Village doesn't really have hidden jutsu, so far as we know. Yeah, they have the Fuma clan, but the Fuma clan's non-canon, and pretty much anytime we ever went to the Sound Village, it was also non-canon. So while technically people from the Sound Village do tend to have sound-based abilities, these abilities aren't consistent, and we don't know if they're tied to Orochimaru or the village itself. Like, yeah, Tayuya uses sound-based genjutsu from her flute, but is that tied to her clan? Is that tied to the village? We just don't know. And sure, the Hidden Rain village technically kind of made Hanzo into a hidden jutsu of sorts, as technically the poison sac that was placed in Hanzo's body came from a salamander that came from the Hidden Rain. That's kind of a stretch of logic. And don't even ask about the hidden waterfall. I mean, yes, technically they had Earth Grudge Fear and they have Power Water, but Power Water is more of a ninja tool than anything, and they didn't exactly want people learning Earth Grudge Fear. So we're sticking with the big 5. And unfortunately, as lists that involve ranking the ninja villages from Naruto usually go, the Sound Village is coming in last, which is wild, because in early Naruto, they seemed so important. But this doesn't mean that the Hidden Sand's hidden jutsus are completely useless. In fact, the Hidden Sand has a myriad of both very useful and very interesting jutsus. You see, because the Hidden Sand is really the only village on this list that has a hidden jutsu that came from its political background. Or I guess it's geopolitical background. And see, because, well, here's the thing. Every single one of the shinobi villages that's located in a land of blank will tend to use the element of which the land they're in is named after. That is to say that a lot of Konoha's abilities are fire-based because they come from the land of fire. The Hidden Mist abilities are mostly water-based because they come from the land of water. The Cloud Village uses lightning because they exist in the land of lightning. And the Sand Village uses a lot of wind-based abilities because they exist in the land of wind. But the Sand Village takes that consideration one step further. See, because by far and away, the number one thing that the Sand Village is known for isn't their wind-based abilities, though obviously Tamari makes a big mark. No, the one thing that they're known for is their puppet jutsu. And I'm talking about the village as a whole. I mean, obviously the Kazekage clan has magnet release, and we'll get to that in a second. But the reason that puppet jutsu proliferated in the Hidden Sand and really nowhere else is because out of all of the major ninja villages, the Hidden Sand's population is the smallest. And on top of that, because the Hidden Sand exists in the middle of a desert, they weren't exactly filled with options when it came to making money for their village. And thus, the only way that the Hidden Sand would be able to make enough money to maintain a village in the middle of a desert was oil, ninja work. I said ninja work. But when you have the smallest population out of all of the other major villages, and the only way you can keep your village afloat is basically through war, keeping the few amount of warriors you have alive is pretty crucial for your village to continue existing. And thus, in order to increase the size of their army, they started to use puppet jutsu, as a well-trained puppeteer could be 10 ninjas as opposed to 1. And from this technique alone, the Hidden Sand produced at least 3 Hokage level ninja: Granichio, Sasori, and Kankuro, all of whom have shown that puppet jutsu, when used correctly, is terrifying, with Sasori displaying strength greater than that of the strongest ever Kazekage, pre-Gaara, the third Kazekage, and Granichio being so strong that she was able to clash with the likes of Hanzo and Sakamo Hatake several times. Even Kankuro, arguably the least impressive out of the trio, is easily a Hokage level threat with his puppet jutsu, especially now that he wields the greatest puppets of both Granichio and Sasori. But puppet jutsu isn't the only thing that the Hidden Sand is known for. See, while puppet jutsu might be a thing that's accessible to everybody inside the Hidden Sand, there is a bloodline-specific Kekkei Genkai that runs through the royalty of the Hidden Sand, and that would be the Kazekage clan's magnet release. Now, the origins of the magnet release of the Kazekage clan are hazy, to say the least. But what we do know is that through research the third Kazekage was doing into Shukaku, and more specifically Shukaku's relationship with his current Jinchuriki, the third Kazekage was able to identify and replicate magnet release, which is a Kekkei Genkai specific to Shukaku. But this isn't what Shukaku uses to control sand, as sand isn't magnetic, and is instead actually the source of the curse marks that run across Shukaku's body, and thus 2 different kinds of elemental control were unlocked for the Hidden Sand village. There was A, the control over sand that came through a relationship with Shukaku, and B, the control over magnetic elements through the usage of magnet release, which was passed down through the Kazekage clan. Now, from the third Kazekage, the fourth Kazekage, Rasa, Gaara's father, learned magnet release, but instead of using his magnet release to control iron sand like the third Kazekage, Rasa used his magnet release to control gold dust, which is most likely a response to the struggling financial situation of the Hidden Sand village. But on top of this, Rasa uses his magnet release in a different kind of way. See, Rasa's genetic magnet release actually allows him to control the amount of density in his gold dust. That is to say, by funneling more chakra into certain areas of his gold dust, he's able to make certain areas of his gold dust that he's controlling magnetically stronger or more dense. And that's the magnet release that he passed down to Gaara. See, because Gaara isn't allowed to control sand because of magnet release. We've already covered the fact that sand is not magnetic. Gaara is able to control sand because of the relationship he has with Shukaku. However, Gaara got a magnet release from his father Rasa that allows him to control the density of his sand by using more or less chakra. However, Gaara doesn't like to use this because it reminds him of his father, who he's not a huge fan of. But still, the strength of magnet release as a Kekkei Genkai tied to the Hidden Sand should not be understated. Now, technically, this isn't all the Hidden Sand is known for, because they're also known for a myriad of different wind-based jutsus, with the most iconic of those being their Tessen jutsu, or their fan jutsus. And while Tamari might be the only fan user we ever see from the Hidden Sand, the Sand siblings are supposed to be a representation of the 3 aspects of the Hidden Sand's military campaign strategies: puppets, fans, and magnet release / Shukaku. And thus Tessen Jutsu is both very popular in the Hidden Sand and also specific to it. But unfortunately, even a roster such as that isn't going to get you that high on this list, because coming in at number 4, we have the Hidden Mist Village. And with the Hidden Mist Village, we have the first instance of me telling you that there's going to be a couple of jutsu / Kekkei Genkai that aren't going to be accounted for when talking about the Hidden Mist's power.
But Nick, what could you possibly be talking about?
Well, there's actually 2 Kekkei Genkai that hail from the Land of Water that we will not be counting towards the Hidden Mist's power. The first of those 2 is Shikatsum Yaku. Now, for those of you who don't remember, Shikatsum Yaku is the Kekkei Genkai of the Kaguya clan, and we learned about the Kaguya clan through the eyes of Kimimaru, the sole survivor of the Kaguya clan. Now, Shikatsum Yaku was rare, even amongst the Kaguya clan. So rare that every generation's inheritor, Shikatsum Yaku, was looked at with fear, and thus Kimimaru, even within the confines of his own clan, was an outcast. The Kaguya clan was not a part of the Hidden Mist. In fact, they were a sworn enemy to it. The Kaguya clan existed alongside all the other clans in the Land of Water for thousands of years. They were a violent, warmongering, feral clan of monsters, and thus they might have been the reason that the other clans in the Land of Water decided to come together to make the Hidden Mist, at which point they were eradicated in their entirety, minus Kimimaru, and thus there's really no reason for us to consider them as a part of the Hidden Mist, as not only are they gone, but they were also never a part of the Hidden Mist. And the same thing goes for the Yuki clan. The Yuki clan, also known as the Ice Release clan, also known as Haku's clan, have existed in the Land of Water since before the formation of the Hidden Mist Village. However, long before the formation of the Hidden Mist Village, there was a civil war in the Land of Water, a civil war in which the Yuki clan was heavily involved in. However, because the usage of their Ice Release made them so deadly in this civil war, after the conclusion of this civil war, the Yuki clan was hunted down and exterminated. And while it's not confirmed as to whether or not all of the members of the Yuki clan are dead, as actually it stated that when they were being hunted down, a lot of them simply decided to no longer use their Kekkei and go off and live in the woods. The Yuki clan is most definitely not a part of the Hidden Mist Village. And even if they were, they wouldn't use their Kekkei for fear of being killed for it. And thus, I'm not going to consider Ice Release for the Hidden Mist either. But Nick, what does that leave us with? Enough. I mean, like, not a lot, but like, enough. When it comes down to it, the number one thing that ninjas from the Hidden Mist are known for is their iconic hiding in mist jutsu, which is essentially just a jutsu that covers an entire battlefield in mist. And while that sounds stupid, mostly because it kind of is, it's not stupid for Hidden Mist Shinobi. You see, because a jutsu that works in tandem with hiding in mist jutsu is another jutsu specific to the Hidden Mist called Silent Killing, in which the Hidden Mist Shinobi who's currently hiding in mist has the ability to move and kill silently, meaning that attacks within the confines of this mist cannot be accounted for or defended against. And since the Hidden Mist Shinobis are so used to moving within the confines of this mist, it puts them at a massive advantage on the battlefield. Outside of that, there's not a whole lot else. At least that's widely accessible to the entirety of the village. See, because while yes, you could technically say things like Water Dragon Jutsu should be on this list, I'd like to remind you that Tobirama uses Water Dragon Jutsu. And if Tobirama, notorious not Hidden Mist Shinobi, knows Water Dragon Jutsu, that means that Water Dragon Jutsu isn't all that well hidden, now is it? However, that doesn't mean that this list is over for the Hidden Mist quite yet, as the Hidden Mist also have a couple of specific clans within their confines that have some pretty interesting jutsus. By far and away, the most important clan that exists within the Hidden Mist are the Hozuki. See, because the Hozuki are kind of like the Hidden Mist's royal family, as Mangetsu Hozuki is one of the most famous seven swordsmen of the mist ever. Gengetsu Hozuki was the second Mizukage, and Suigetsu Hozuki is, he's figuring things out. But every single one of these Hozuki clan members have access to a technique known as hydrification, the ability to make their entire body into water, which not only makes them almost impossible to strike physically, but also gives them the ability to do things like merge with bodies of water or increase the size of parts of their bodies. And as they pump more of their body's water into certain parts of their body, like their arms, they can make those parts of their body proportionally stronger. On top of this, as their bodies are made entirely of water, they also have access to a thing known as the water gun technique, which allows them to fire incredibly pressurized bullets of water from their fingertips. And these water bullets travel at a speed and force comparable to that of a gunshot, meaning that one to the forehead is GG's. But this isn't the only, let's call it, special clan that lives in the Hidden Mist, as they also have the Hoshigaki, who have shark no jutsu? We don't really know, but there's a clan of shark people in the village, and they can breathe underwater because they're sharks. And that's all we got to know about the Hoshigaki. Moving on. Coming up in third place, we have the Cloud Village, which is fun and new because usually the Cloud Village falls in second when it comes to power ranking things. But of all the villages we're going to be talking about today, the Cloud Village is actually the only village without a bloodline specific Kekkei Genkai. Maybe, it is kind of confusing when it comes to the Stone Village, but we'll get there. But just because they don't have a bloodline specific Kekkei Genkai tied to a clan does not mean the Hidden Cloud Village is anything to mess with. See, really when it comes down to it, all of the abilities tied to the Hidden Cloud are going to be lightning based, as, like we've already stated, the Hidden Cloud exists within the Land of Lightning. But they really take that to the nth degree. See, because while Lightning Release is probably the most used release in all of Naruto, somehow the Cloud Village manages to use several different kinds of Lightning Release that nobody else uses. And the most prominent kind of lightning release that the Cloud Village uses and nobody else uses is their lightning cloak, which is baffling on account of just how powerful it truly is. See, simply by wrapping their body in a thin layer of lightning chakra, people like A and Killer B all managed to massively increase not only their speed, but also their strength. And this isn't a one-time upgrade. The more lightning that's applied to the lightning cloak, the stronger and faster the user gets. However, a possible explanation as to why people aren't trying to use the lightning cloak is because when you use the lightning cloak, you also have to be trained in something known as nin taijutsu, which is an upgraded version of taijutsu that operates at a way higher speed and strength coefficient on account of the lightning cloak. And therefore, if you don't have the reaction time or the training in nin taijutsu, increasing your speed and strength might actually be more detrimental to you than helpful. However, if your reaction time is kind of naturally slow, don't worry, because Lightning Cloak also increases the reaction time of the user by overriding your actual nervous system, because your nervous system is only able to send signals at about 200 miles an hour. But by coating your entire body in lightning chakra, you're able to override that nervous system and send signals at a way faster pace. Not only does it increase your speed and strength, but it also forms a borderline impenetrable defense around you, and it makes you fast enough to dodge things like Amaterasu and perform body flicker. In fact, there's only two things in the entirety of the Naruto universe that are said to be faster than the Lightning Cloak, and those are Flying Raijin and KCM. But it doesn't end there, because the Hidden Lightning is known for a couple of other very prominent, very powerful lightning moves. My favorite amongst the ones that they're known for is Black Lightning, which is a unique form of lightning release utilized by the third Raikage that was passed down to Darui. And those who are trained in Black Lightning bear a tattoo that shows everybody that they know Black Lightning on their right shoulder. Now, not a whole lot is known about Black Lightning outside of the fact that it's lightning release and black, but we do know that abilities like lightning release Black Panther are capable once you're trained in it, which is the ability to create a Black Panther created from lightning release that the user is able to control, and everybody that this Black Panther comes into contact with is shocked, presumably to death. Now, the last entry from the Hidden Cloud is a slightly contentious one, and that would be Storm Release. See, the reason that Storm Release is kind of a contentious pick here is the fact that Madara also knows how to use Storm Release. Now, while usually that would be a disqualification because, not so hidden, this is Madara we're talking about, and more importantly, it's Jubidara we're talking about, as Jubidara's mouth laser, Sage Art Storm Release Light Fang, is very obviously Storm Release. Like, it's Madara, you know? Madara knowing your jutsu doesn't mean you didn't do a good job of hiding it. It just means he's Madara. So if you want to give it to him, go ahead. If you don't, whatever. But I'm giving it to him. Storm Release is a combination of water and lightning release, and it's used by several members of the Hidden Cloud. However, it's used most notably by Darui, the 5th Raikage. And it allows Darui to use moves like Storm Release Laser Circus, which creates several beams of lightning that Darui is able to shoot in a myriad of different directions, taking out almost entire battlefields with elevated lightning release. And considering the fact that every single one of the beams fired with Laser Circus is independently controllable, it allows Darui to both be a shotgun and a sniper, making it one of the deadliest moves in Naruto's universe. And while for a good amount of time after seeing Darui use his technique, people believed that Storm Release was specific to a bloodline within the Hidden Cloud, after we saw Madara use Storm Release, that idea got kind of shattered. And thus, so far as we know, there's no bloodline-specific Kekkei that come from the Hidden Cloud. And that might be the case with the Hidden Stone as well, who are coming up at number 2. And yes, before anybody says it, I'm aware that Koretsuchi has access to Lava Release, but so does Mai, and Lava Release is almost definitely not a hidden jutsu to the Hidden Stone. Now, if you want to make the argument that her ability to make Quicklime or Ash with Lava Release is a stone-specific ability, go ahead, but I wouldn't, and therefore I won't. And thus, if we're not going to be giving the Hidden Stone Lava Release, what are they getting, and why are they so high on the list? Well, I'll tell you why they're high on the list. It's not because they have a bloodline-specific Kekkei, because they don't have a bloodline-specific Kekkei. No. Instead, they have a bloodline-specific Kekkei Toda, also known as Particle Release. Now, I can already hear the well-informed of you screaming that Mu and Inoki aren't related, and so far as we know, neither are the 3rd Kazekage and Rasa. But since this jutsu has only ever been passed down from Tsuchikage to Tsuchikage, I'm calling it bloodline-specific in the same sense that Magna Release is bloodline-specific to the Kazekage clan. Now, Particle Release or Dust Release is a Kekkei Toda, a combination of Earth, Wind, and Fire Release that allows the user to create a geometric shape that can be extended intended to quite literally atomize anything within its confines. Really, when it comes down to it, out of all of the jutsus you want to be hit by, it is last on the list. In sheer killability, I would say it's the strongest jutsu in Naruto on an individual level. Obviously, other jutsus have the ability to wipe out entire planets. Now, Mu, the second Tsuchikage, was the creator of this technique, and he passed it on to Inoki, the third Tsuchikage. Now, Inoki never passed it on to Korotsuchi, but he did pass it off to a weird clone type thing he made in a filler arc in Boruto, which he made to make sure that people in the Hidden Stone would never die and that they would have androids to fight their battles. I don't know. Feels like teaching your granddaughter your most powerful technique would probably be a better way to keep her safe. But I don't have grandkids. What do I know? Now, while obviously the Hidden Stone is known for their dust release, they're also known for a couple of other jutsus, like Explosion Release, which is another Kekkei Genkai, a combination of lightning and earth release. And while we've only ever seen two users of Explosion Release, those being Gari and Datara, it's loosely implied that Explosion Release is used by many people in the Hidden Stone. That is to say that the Hidden Stone has an entire group known as the Explosion Corps, whose role in the Hidden Stone is kind of hazy, but we know that they explode things using their explosion release. And while not every single member of the Explosion Corps is able to create giant birds and dragons out of clay that eventually explode on targets, they all are able to generate explosions at will. And thus, this is how Gari used explosion release. Essentially, Gari was a taijutsu user, and when he came into contact with somebody else, he would trigger an explosion, making his taijutsu infinitely more powerful. But whether or not you're trying to encapsulate explosions as an expression of art, or just trying to make your punches a bit more spicy, explosion release is terrifying in the hand of somebody who knows what they're doing. And apparently, there's a lot of people who know what they're doing with explosion release in the Hidden Stone. But even that's not all the Hidden Stone is known for, as also within the belly of the Hidden Stone lays a clan, but the name of the Kamizuro clan. And while a lot of you are probably saying,
But Nick, the Kamizuro clan is filler.
they actually appear in a light novel, so they were canonized. Now, the Kamizuro clan are essentially the Aburame clan, but instead of beetles, they use bees. And while one would assume that bees would be stronger than beetles, you would be wrong if you made that assumption. In fact, pretty much the reason that the Kamizuro clan no longer exists in a potent capacity is because the Aburame clan outclassed them so badly. But they do have the ability to summon giant bees, as we saw from Suzumbachi. And by controlling thousands of bees simultaneously, they're able to inflict thousands of bee bites in an instant. And if you're allergic or just don't like being bitten by bees, that could be fatal. Not to mention that the first Tsuchikage was revealed to be a member of this clan. And thus that means through the power of bees, that somebody was able to rise to a Kage level threat, which means that even though the Kamizuri clan may not be potent or powerful or relevant nowadays, it means that they do technically have the potential to be all of those things. So for that, they should get at least a little bit of credit, but mostly it's the explosion release and the dust release that's putting the Stone Village this high up.
But then Nick, what could possibly be at number 1?
The Sound Village, dummy. We're talking about Zaku's wind palm hands. I mean, sure, you gotta make sure they're really clean, otherwise you're gonna blow your arms off at the elbow, but wind palm hands. Now, it's obviously Konoha. Let's just go over a list of hidden jutsus or clans with hidden jutsus that reside within Konoha. You have the Aburames with their parasitic insect technique, Nara clan with their shadow possession jutsu, the Akamichi with their partial expansion jutsu, the Yamanaka with their mind transfer jutsu, the Inuzuka with their dogs. I don't really think there's a jutsu associated with that. We'll just say man beast clone. There's the Sharingan, which obviously comes with the Mangekyo Sharingan, the Susanoo, MS abilities. There's also the Great Fireball technique that's associated with the Uchiha and all of the genjutsu that the Sharingan can do. There's the Byakugan, Gentle Fist, 8 Gates. Yes, that's right, 8 Gates is a hidden jutsu. It's passed down verbally. There's literally no books on how to train in it, and it's specific to a group of people in a specific place. There's the Sarutobi Fire Release, like Hidden and Burning Ash technique. And technically, if you want to get into the nitty-gritty of it, the only place that wood release has ever been manifested is in Konoha. And technically, Konoha could have more. See, if Konoha hadn't Kaguya clanned the Uzumaki, you could also put adamantite chains on here, Mind's Eye of the Kagura, and basically everything that the Uzumaki had access to. And while obviously one could be like, well, yeah, but the Uzumaki have their own village, the Uzumaki and the Senju were said to be closely related. And so what would kind of be teetering on the edge of, is this okay, is it not? The sheer fact that there was Uzumaki temples built all around Konoha that had masks to summon a Shinigami, to me, sounds not only a bit hidden, but also a bit specific to Konoha. So maybe killing the Uzumaki was just a way to make sure that Konoha would actually have problems sometime in the future. If the Uzumaki were still around, there wouldn't be much plot. But what do you guys think? Out of all of the villages you could be born into, which would you want to be born into for their jutsu? Tell me in the comments below, and if I missed anything like hidden jutsu or you think my list is a bit inaccurate, also tell me in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Yeah, I know the background looks different. We're gonna be putting a bed in here because occasionally my mom comes over and we're like, oh yeah, you'll sleep on an air mattress, but she's 63 and I feel terrible about that. So we're gonna be putting a pull-out mattress back there so that when she's here, she has somewhere more comfortable to sleep. But the bookcases were in the way and now they're closer, which I actually kind of like. It looks more weeby, it's up close, you can see the statues, there's Rem, there's Obito, that's Luffy, you get it.